All right, so welcome. So on behalf of the Australasian College for Road Safety's local government network, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our December meeting, where today we are handing over the reins to the Austroads team to run us through what they do and some of the projects that they're working on that are of relevance to local government. So if you haven't been to an LGN meeting before, welcome. It's great to see you. I'm Mel Suter. I'm the chair of the network, and in my day job, I'm the road safety officer for Parks, Forbes and Lachlan Shire councils, who are located right in smack bang in the middle of New South Wales. And a warm welcome if you're a regular. It's nice to see some familiar faces online as well. So I'll just click forward. Yep. Kicking off with an acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge and pay our respects to the many First Nations of Australia who continue to be the sovereign custodians of their countries and the sovereignty of the Maori in New Zealand. We acknowledge the ongoing traditional custodians of the lands on which we live, work and learn, and pay our respects to elders who have passed on the legacy of knowledge and culture to the future generations. May the sharing of knowledge through Matarunga Maori and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ways of knowing, being and doing guide you with wisdom and courage as it enhances our collective futures. So if this is your first foray into the LGN, welcome. It's great to have you. I just wanted to take a brief moment to tell you a little bit about, I guess, who we are and what we do. So we are all members of the Australasian College for Road Safety, and we want to look at road safety through that local government lens. So our members either work directly for local governments or they work with organisations that work with local government and have an interest in what local government's doing in that space. So like state road authorities, local government associations, consultants, etc. We are incredibly active. So we have a meeting like this every month, usually in this time slot. And different formats. So today, a really quite informal meeting, really, with the Austroads team. Sometimes it's a bit more of a formal webinar. Sometimes my personal favourite is the open mic sessions where members can just ask other members for help with issues that they're having. So it's really an opportunity to connect our members with people and ideas that they may not have otherwise encountered. So welcome if this is your first LGN event. And spread the word to other people that you might know and encourage them to join us. So housekeeping for today, we're going to run for approximately 60 minutes. You might have noticed as you came in that we are recording today's meeting because we thought it was so important to be able to share this knowledge with the other members that weren't able to make it during this really crazy, silly season that we're in. But thank you for you guys that have made the effort to get here today. So in terms of how it's going to work, I'm going to hand over control to the Austroads team and then pop back at the end to facilitate your Q&A. So it'll basically be a bouncing ball across the presenters, and we'll hold your questions till the end. So if you want to have a question, please pop it in the chat. I'll be keeping my eye on that. I will do my very best to get to all of your questions, but if we don't get to your particular one, the presenters are going to pop their email addresses in the chat as well, so you can chase them up afterwards. And I think that's probably it from me in terms of housekeeping. So I'm really happy to hand you over now to Michael, who's going to talk first. So, introduce you to the rest of the Austroads team. So Michael Newstig is the Road Safety and Design Program Manager for Austroads. That's a position that he started in 2021. I don't want to steal your thunder, Michael, by talking about what Austroads does. So I'm happy to hand over to you, and I'll see you all in 40 minutes when we do some Q&A.
Thanks, Mel, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope we can give you something of interest here. We're doing a lot of work and we really love local government. So thanks for having us. I'll just quickly introduce my colleagues today. Amy Knowles is our Austroads Transport Network Operations Program Manager. She's got 25 years of experience in transport planning and traffic engineering, and she leads the freight and network task forces for Austroads, and that's about improving mobility for all users of our transport systems. And in her private life, Amy is proud of her work with her children's primary school to help advocate for better travel options for children and students in the community. Hafez Alavi, Dr. Hafez Alavi is the principal of HA Consulting. He has played a key role in developing and delivering numerous road safety strategies, including the Victorian Government's Towards Zero strategy, and he specialises in safe system engineering, road safety practices and active transport. Hafez is deeply committed to transforming road transport systems to align with Vision Zero principles, and for hobby, hobbies, he collects paintings and plays Iranian drums and piano. Phil Harbert will be presenting as well today. Phil has worked in the transport sector at local government and state level and has been involved in traffic calming, travel behaviour change programs, state transport planning and state transport legislation. Sustainable transport is a passion of Phil's, and in all his work, and he seeks to create better outcomes for people who walk and wheel. And Chris Konoditsiotis will be our last presenter. Chris is an advisor and consultant with 39 years of experience in the broad industry sectors of infrastructure, transport, energy, and digital transformation. His expertise lies in implementing public policy and private sector initiatives into sustainable operational practices. And before entering the consultancy world, Chris held several corporate positions, including the Chief Executive Officer of Transport Certification Australia and Project Director with the World Bank. So I'm in good company, and we're all in good company being with you. So I just want to give you a quick overview of Austroads and particularly the Road Safety and Design Program, which is where I work. Did you know we've been around for 90 years? So this is what transport system looked like in Sydney when the first iteration of Austroads was set up, and it was really important that the states work together to share knowledge and try and get some common outcomes across Australia. More recently, New Zealand has joined us, and the Local Government Association in Australia. The Road Safety and Design Program exists to create a path to eliminating road trauma by 2050, and we've got 3 task forces. We do road safety, registration and licensing, and road design. We produce guides that are downloaded tens of thousands of times a year, probably 150,000 times. We see the road design guide downloaded, and the assessing fitness to drive publication is downloaded about 6,000 times a month. We produce online resources, and we are developing accreditation services. We accredit safety barriers and the training for those who install and operate safety barriers, and we're building more. You'll hear about some of that soon. So in the road safety and design team, we really want to establish that path to zero, as I mentioned, and we've got our values here. We partnerships, we work together. Assurance, we provide objective evidence and world-class guidance. We want to be transparent. We want to deliver on our needs and promises. And our key reason for being is harmonisation. It's about achieving zero in a standardised way. And we have 4 parts of that, 4 real areas where we work. We have a safety toolkit. This is where you find hopefully usable, relevant and responsive tools and guidance to help you do your job. Accreditation, we try to apply best practice by standardising delivery across Australia and New Zealand. Austroads is really a master at facilitation. We set the table and people come from all over to join us and try to solve problems together. And we try to pool our expertise. We're all often isolated and working on our own, and we need to work together. And so that's a key focus of us for us. That gives us a path to safe. And we've had a focus recently on picking up the pace. We really want to make sure that our work is supporting action. So that's been a bit of a theme for the last couple of years. That's all from me, or almost. Just to let you know, we are also looking after AusRap now. I won't go into any more other than say you can look us up and find out more there. And we are soon introducing a new consumer information resource on new technology that you'll find in most modern vehicles. So that will be released in about April, and that's the way it's going to look. Okay, Amy, over to you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm going to quickly introduce some of the projects that are underway in the network program, which I think are hopefully of a bit of interest to this group. I'll first tease you a little bit with 3 reports which we're hoping to publish very early next year. Guidance for pedestrian planning, guidance for cycling and micro-mobility planning, and also movement in place guidance. So all being well, those will be coming out early next year. We'll have a webinar and we'll have a report published. So looking forward to sharing with you all what's come out of those projects. And then I also wanted to just share some projects which are underway and just mention them really, just to raise your awareness that we are updating our guidance on parking management. And I just mention that because it actually has an impact on so many elements of how we manage our networks. And I think it is an important project. So that's relatively early days, that project, but an exciting one. And from my perspective, for the guides I'm responsible for, that's one of our most downloaded sections of our guides. So it's important to people. We've also got a proof of concept project, which is about making sure that the Austroads 23 vehicle classification scheme, which is about how do you measure and record different types of vehicles and also different types of active travellers, is useful and works for our members. So I'm going to put a link in the chat. We have a survey underway at the moment, and I'll be really grateful if you were able to take part in the survey and also share it with your networks to make sure we really understand what people need from our vehicle classification scheme. But the project that thank you, Mel. The project I'll spend a bit more time talking about is travel to schools. Look, it's very close to my heart. It's certainly something I've been involved with in my own personal life, trying to improve the travel options around schools. And I think we all know it's a big challenge across all our networks, but we've got a really great team on this project, which is being project managed by Alice Woodruff from Active City. If you've met Alice before, we've got representation on the project control group from all of these different states and territories, and also multiple different local government associations. And our project delivery consultants are Stantec, and they're supported by Prue Oswin, Billy Giles Corty, and Chris Bennett. So it's a great team, and they're doing fantastic work. It is actually quite well advanced, that project. So it started off earlier in this year, where we had a bit of engagement with different stakeholders to understand what are the principles which should inform our Safe Travel to School project and our guideline. We then moved on to understanding what's best practice and which jurisdictions, which school communities are really doing a great job here, and how can we learn from what's being done well and really share that effectively. And so to that end, we've got a number of case studies which have been developed, and they're really inspiring. And all this is going to contribute to the development of an actual guide, a travel to school guide, which I'm really optimistic will be a useful resource for quite a range of people. I'm hoping local government, the road agencies, of course, schools, education departments, and most importantly, perhaps the community, so that people can really understand how they can shift the dial and travel to school. And I say travel to school deliberately because I think it's safe travel to school, and often that's active travel to school, but not always. We do have to provide for travel to school for everyone. So some of the themes from the consultation will be pretty familiar to you, perhaps, that often people explain that there were concerns about safety, which were limiting their ability to change travel to school behaviours, because they felt perhaps that the infrastructure wasn't there to make it safe for young children particularly, or for anyone to get to school safely. There's maybe not enough funding to easily make a change to those situations, and it's really important that the school community is part of the discussion about where the problems are. And then once you've done all an improvement, you still need to work with the community to introduce behaviour change. So there's a few interesting insights there. And we've come up with is a framework that we have to think about that needs for two sort of overarching scenarios, I guess. One is when you're planning a new school, what are the considerations? And then also when you've got an existing school, which is probably most scenarios, how do you work with the challenges that are already sort of pretty baked in, and you've got to be a bit more innovative there? How do we work with the situation we've been given? And so overall, I guess there's three areas you can work on. You can work on the infrastructure, you can work on managing the travel demand, and you can work on behaviour change programs. And those are all important tools to improve our travel to school options. So just a bit of a taster of some of these really great initiatives different places have put in place. What to do, and what the consultant team has recommended doing is calling out the challenges that perhaps applied at each of these case studies, and what the local jurisdiction or the school or the community did to try and address them. But often you'll find that the challenges are pretty common in many schools. For example, I'm sure you'll all agree vehicle speeds is a big challenge, and how do we support safer speeds around schools? How do we minimise conflict between different users? What do we do about these very congested streets around schools, and how do we evidence the need to invest in all of these schools. So this is, at the bottom, you can see the different locations where the project team decided there was really good evidence for a school addressing these issues very successfully. So that's hopefully going to be a practical tool for the readers of the eventual guide, we trust, to look at. And also there's learnings there about how to work with the community to change the social norms about the behaviour of the drivers around the school, about the school community, about the parent community. There's a lot of things we can do to improve options, and these are some examples of where that's been quite a successful initiatives. How do we work with the school or the school community to work out what are the safe routes? How do we have that influencing all stages of school development and new schools and existing schools? And we've got to be cognizant that all this takes capacity and resources. We're asking a lot from our teaching staff often, we need to support them as best we can. We're also asking a lot from our local government teams and our parent community. So how can we make it as easy as possible for people to sort of implement these changes? So hopefully, yes, some good resources there to help with that. So I think I mentioned this before, but yeah, I guess there's 3 points where you get called into a school. One is about you've got a challenge at an existing school and how can we improve it? You might also have a change in the way the school has been operated compared to yesteryear. So perhaps there's been a big increase in enrolments and a change in the way people are getting to school, but that means that maybe in the local government context, that's when you get contacted by the school or by the community and there's a problem and people need help to address it. And then, as I mentioned before, we've actually got a massive infrastructure or building program in Australia. We've got a lot of new schools being built. How can we start off these schools and work with these schools at the beginning so they set up to be easier for travel behaviour management to be more successful than perhaps an old school? So there's lots of opportunities here. This is a great graphic around how does schools work as places in terms of the movement and place construct. So schools clearly are not a place where you expect a lot of movement. They're a really central hub in our communities, but also the immediate surroundings of a school are also quite a high place value. It's a place where people congregate, where children are likely to be playing or perhaps less well supervised, and it's part of the consideration. It's got quite a strong place value, and then arguably as you move out beyond that, really perhaps we all would like to see school catchments as places where children are safe as well. So, but the place value is also in balance with the movement value. So I'm just conscious of time. This is a great topic, but I'll try and move through it pretty quickly. So this graphic here is talking about how we work together with the benefits, I guess, of working together with the community to identify where, particularly within an existing school, how can you, particularly as local government, work to improve the travel options and working to understand where people are concerned about safe crossings of roads. Well, thanks, Michael, and how to address those issues, see if there's ways around them, which might be relatively low cost often, what sort of solutions are required. And then once those solutions are in, we do need out, obviously local government needs to understand how effective they were. So it's a journey throughout. And then I think this is my last slide coming up. Okay, so yes, so also in terms of our changing behaviours, we do need the road agency support, working with the community. How do we educate people about what's available? How do we support them to plan and access where they need to, where things need to be done by the road agency, but also by the school community and also by the community. And then once a solution is in place, how do we tell it was successful? And if it was successful, hopefully we get that language in this guide around how to share that more widely so people can learn from what works well. And that's all from me. Thank you very much. I'll pass over back now. I think I pass over to Phil. Hafiz, apologies. Over to Hafiz. Thank you, Hafiz.
Thank you. It's a great project, Amy, and I have been talking with Alice and Prue about this. Very interesting, like also mixing active and safe in a more overarching, so I really like it. Also, I want to mention that LGAs are the core of some of the innovation in this area and also in safety area, so I want to acknowledge that. So sometimes when I talk to people like Adam here, Brett, Alex, I feel that like they're leading the game in some areas and we need to follow them. So I just want to acknowledge that as well. So I want to take you to the other side of the spectrum. So we talked about the school. I want to talk about big picture strategy. We talked about picking up the pace, but how do we do that? We have a serious problem with road safety in Australasia, especially at the local government level as well. So how we can pick up the pace, how we can do things differently. That's why we have developed a new approach to developing road safety strategies in Australasia. We call it Charting a Path to Zero, or Planning for Zero framework. The core of my talk today is about telling you about that approach and how that applies to the local government, or how you can keep your state governments accountable to do a better job for you. So that's the core. Cool. So road safety matters. You know all of this. One area that I want to talk about today is we have realized that talking about the economic value of road safety improvement is one of the things that cuts through the noise to our politicians. So of course, road safety is a really good friend with active travel, public health, sustainability, equity, inclusion, livability, as Amy mentioned, child development, safety, schools, and all of that, tourism. But one of the areas we have realized that we haven't been speaking enough about is how road safety can actually be, profitable, productive, and help economic growth. So that's like one of the areas that I want to mention today. In terms of why it is important for local government, again, you know better than I do, just a few points here. 80 to 85% of the network is local streets and local roads. 30 to 40% of travel occurs on them. However, 50% of all crashes and 30 to 40% of serious injuries are there. So if we want to achieve significant reductions in serious road trauma in Australasia, we need to do something better for local government. Or also in terms of emotional level, like we live there, we live on local streets, and we have several competing community priorities. Amy mentioned parking. There are several competing priorities in every local government that we are aware of. So we need to equip our colleagues in local government and support them to do a better job, hopefully, with road safety. I also want to mention resources, capacity, and funding. This project, Austroads project, provides really good insights about how you can improve capability. We have developed really good comms and engagement as well, and training. I will talk about them as well to give you some pointers where you can find them. Now, a couple of things, just hopefully you can use it in your conversation with your decision makers. Currently in Australia, we have 42,000 deaths and serious injuries. Our ambition is reducing them by 2030 by 50%, or significant reduction in serious injuries, 100% reduction or near to zero elimination of harm by 2050. So it's like needless to say that this is a very ambitious, and also I don't need to tell you that we're not doing really well. If we compare Australia to a little bit more advanced road safety jurisdictions that are not really different from ours as well, so we are doing really bad. So if you look at, say, Norway, they're sort of standing in our 2030. So if we do a great job and develop a 50% reduction, we only catch up with Norway today. So that's where we are. It's like really hopefully creates a an impetus for picking up the pace. One comment: we have compared Australia to not only Norway, Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, UK, South Korea, Japan. So we cannot say that this is because they are different from us. A majority of OECD countries are doing better. So there is something that systemically they're doing different that we need to adopt. Also, we're doing a little bit worse when it comes to vulnerable road users. This one is about pedestrian deaths per year per 100,000 population. So if you look at Australia versus Norway, we're doing 4 times less. So if in the whole road trauma, there are 10 years ahead, when you look at the pedestrians, they're at least 20 years ahead. So that's what's happening. Now, sitting on this burning platform, Austroads developed this fantastic project, Charting a Path to Zero, which helps to develop more effective road safety strategies to guide more effective reduction of harm, to create significant reductions. Also developing zero pathways for Austroads members, one of them being ALGA and a representative of local government, to adopt their learnings from this project and develop their own capability improvement pathways. Also to support both vertical and horizontal collaboration between federal, state, and local, we have developed really good comms and engagement strategies and training to improve the capacity of your personnel. Now, how we do that? The project started with developing a blueprint for developing better road safety strategies. We have been doing several ways of developing road safety strategies in Australasia. In this project, we have honed to the best practice, and we have sort of put it in a really nice guide that you can use. So now we know what's the best way to develop a road safety strategy. We call it Planning for Zero framework, and you can find it in a report that we will be publishing soon. In terms of having that blueprint, it's not enough. We know that. So what we did, we developed zero pathways to take these blueprints and turn them to address jurisdictional or data or road safety or road trauma issues of each jurisdiction and Austroads member, which we call them zero pathways. So in essence, they are helping jurisdictions and members of Austroads to develop better strategies. Also, as I mentioned, comms and engagement material, which tells who are your stakeholders, what are the key messages to deliver to them, and how to deliver those messages to them through what techniques. So that's there as well. We have developed material on change management, and this is targeting your strategic leadership and political sphere. So we have given some insight how we can change things or initiate change. As I mentioned, also, we have developed a really comprehensive view of available road safety training in Australasia, existing, and also what is needed if we want to achieve zero. Finally, as part of the Charting a Path to Zero project, we have identified 18 areas of research gaps that we need to address if we want to achieve zero. On the top of that, we have identified around 108 research areas that we can put effort into. So this is a potential pipeline to inform future Austroads investment and also jurisdictional investment into road safety in one really nice package that everything talks to each other. So that's also happening as part of this project. Now, I want to share the Planning for Zero framework with you. There's so much more information about it you can find in the report. But essentially, what we have done here is a method to identify how the road transport system should look like if we want to minimize harm in terms of vehicle speed and road interactions supported by road safety management. Using the tool, you can look at any jurisdiction, identify systemic road safety risks that create the majority of your serious road trauma, identify systemic intervention to counter them, package them up in an action plan, test them, value, appraise them, and implement them. So this is the whole big picture. Again, if you need more information, please reach out to myself or Michael, and we can give you more information. Now, what does it all mean for local government? And I think this is my penultimate slide. So first, I want to acknowledge Brett Williams here and Adam Mularczyk and other local government members who have been actively supporting, contributing to the project by insight, advice, and expertise. So thank you very much. We have developed a blueprint that is mainly for road safety strategies at the federal and state level. However, the approach and also the maturity assessment tool that we have developed can be used for local government. Again, you can reach either myself or Brett Williams here to give you more information how you can use the insights. We have developed really good guidance about how to develop communication and engagement strategies for road safety. We have tested that model for a city of Port Hedland in WA and also a state government. So we think it works. Also, we have developed, as I mentioned, FAQs to help you change manage and also training material that you can use. Timelines. December, like in a couple of days, we will be sending out reports, the final reports of the project. We come back in January and February, finalize the project. Hopefully from February, March, you will be able to get the outputs of the project and use them. I think there are some limitations who can access them. So please reach out to myself or Michael Newstick here, and then we identify what kind of information can be shared or what kind of guidance can be shared. So thank you very much.
There we go. Thanks, Fez. That's a great presentation and sets the scene for me as well in terms of painting the picture about the broader road safety issue. We're doing a deep dive within this project looking at pedestrian safety particularly. So I'll walk you through what we've been doing and what we're going to be doing. So the Keeping People Safe When Walking project is a significant investment by Austroads into pedestrian safety research, and it's very much focused on helping advance the vision for zero around pedestrian safety fatalities and serious injuries with that midterm 2030 target of 50% and 2050 zero target as well. We've got 3 stages to the project. The first stage there, data, evidence and interventions, was led by Hafez and a team of a consortium of consultants working well. And that project is now, that stage 1 is almost done. I'll tell you more about that now. And then we're now in the starting stages of the second stage, better guidance, which is really looking at how we improve the guidance for practitioners to put in place different things to reach better safety outcomes for people who walk and wheel. Great. I'm going to walk you through some of the key findings from Stream 1. There was an enormous amount of work done to get to these findings, which included literature review, it included modelling, it included an enormous amount of engagement that the team did with practitioners in Australia and New Zealand and at all levels, and practitioners in the research space as well as in the road design spaces, in the road safety space, etc. So a huge amount of work. Hafez has already outlined that we're not on track to reach those targets, and in pedestrians, it's exactly the same. We've basically been stagnating for the last 10 years or so, a little bit of a dip when it came to the COVID period, but beyond that, we haven't really seen any gains in pedestrian safety for some time. What is good though is that this project has revealed to us that we do have many of the tools that we need to reach to improve pedestrian safety outcomes. It's really about the uptake of those tools by practitioners at the road design level, but also in vehicle technology and other areas. So we're not going to get to zero unless pedestrian safety is part of that. And one of the things that we saw was that pedestrian safety was also sort of lagging a little bit behind the progress that we're making in vehicle occupant safety, for example. We're going to need a systemic approach. It's one if you're trying to take risk out of the whole system for pedestrians, not just at isolated locations. We're really trying to make everywhere safe and walkable. Obviously not freeways or anything like that, just to be clear. And it's going to take us an approach that combines a range of interventions, infrastructure interventions, speed management interventions, and vehicle technology interventions are absolutely critical within that. The exciting thing is with all of those tools that we have, all those technologies, all of those ways of creating a better road network, a safer road network, that more people can walk safely, is that we can make significant gains, almost all the way down to 90% by 2050 over time. There is time for things to be taken up across the system, but what we're presenting to you with that 9% is really what we call an unconstrained, you've got no constraints on resources, you just go gangbusters, and really it's then just the time to have those things implemented in practice. That's exciting, huge opportunity for us. Oh, sorry, just jump forward one. So out of Stream 1, it became really apparent to us, and I'm sure it's really obvious to yourselves as well, is that we're really trying to move from a system where 10, 20 years ago, it would be wait for crashes to be reported. We would then respond to the specifics of that particular pedestrian crash. We would try and treat the site. And that was where we sort of left things largely. What we're looking at now and in the future approach, and many of you are thinking about this, but it's about how we do this everywhere across Australia and New Zealand, is how we think about taking risk out of the system so that we're preventing the opportunity for pedestrian safety or pedestrian crashes and improving pedestrian safety. So it's a much more systems-based approach. It's a preventative-based approach. And absolutely, it's critical that we move as fast as we can. The faster we move, the more lives we save, obviously. We do know from Stream 1 as well that there's further work to do in particular areas where risk will remain even with the existing treatments. It's largely in areas where there's high speeds, rural roads, and complex environments that we're yet still to work out how we resolve those. So the body of work that I've really briefly summarized is going to be coming out in these 4 publications. They are imminent, so they're about to be signed off, and then we'll have them released on the Austroads website. I'll have a QR code that you can link to later on that'll take you to that. And in the new year, Vez and the team will be able to give us some webinars which will go into far more detail than I'm able to present to you today, which will be really exciting to have all of you come along to those. So now I'm just going to tell you more about the next phase of work. So Stream 1 was broad and it looked at all the areas of possible understanding pedestrian safety. What are our opportunities? What are the data telling us? What's the modeling tell us? Out of that came a huge range of areas for further work. So these are some of those that are being picked up at the moment. One of those is a work package called Understanding Inequity and Pedestrian Safety Outcomes. And it's really looking at getting deeper understanding for the range of people who walk and wheel, what their particular needs are, and how those needs are best responded to by the system to avoid pedestrian crashes. And that's people with mobility issues, older people, people with cognitive concerns, etc. So we're really doing a lot of work in this space, and one of the key areas as well is with pedestrian safety for Indigenous people here in Australia, Maori people in New Zealand, who are significantly overrepresented. So we know pedestrians are overrepresented in relation to all road safety, but within the pedestrian cohort, there are specific characteristics of and identities of individuals that mean they're overrepresented as well. So I was in a workshop this morning with some great people who are talking about this and explaining the holistic nature of what we do in a universal transport system that creates better safety and how critical that is and important to everyone. Great. The next work package is about safer speeds. We know the speed environment is so crucial to pedestrian safety outcomes. The slower the speeds, the more likely it is that if a crash occurs, someone will survive that crash. But ideally, a slower speed also means that the crash may not occur in the first place. And this is where things like technology, speed come together. So vehicle technologies that allow a vehicle to anticipate and observe a pedestrian. It's going slow enough, they can stop in time. Sorry, someone move me forward. Was that you, Michael? I'll be really quick on that one. So yeah, the critical thing here is that we're doing an economic analysis of those speeds so that we can give policymakers in particular, practitioners within our transport agencies, better case to make the case for slower speeds. Cool. Moving along, Stream 1 looked at what data exists and what was the data needs for advancing pedestrian safety policy planning and practice. It created an enormously powerful framework for that, which then led to the next question: what should we invest in next? So what transport authorities, what data should they invest in next that allows us to do that? So this project is going into that deeper assessment of pedestrian data and advising transport authorities what they can do next in that space. Methodologies and tools is a really important project, and probably also one where the potential for this prototype tool that will come out of it would be a benefit for local governments, particularly in being able to assess pedestrian risk and pedestrian exposure. If you think of pedestrian risk, you're looking backwards at crashes that have occurred. Pedestrian exposure is more about the potential for risk in the future based on the amount of pedestrians in a space and interactions with vehicles, etc. So the task here and the project team looking after this is to develop a tool that's pragmatic, that uses data that's largely available, that doesn't need a huge amount of extra investment in data, but gives us good information that comes out of it that allows prioritization on investment to ultimately take risk out of the system. And the last work package in this project is around the guidance that all practitioners used. Michael referred to how many times those Austroads guides get downloaded. So when we think about guidance, it's all of those sorts of guides that Austroads prepares, creates, maintains, and updates, but it's also guidance that other organizations create as well, such as ATAP and Waka Kotahi in New Zealand. We'll be looking at all of that guidance that is foundational to the way that we plan, design, and build our transport systems, looking for opportunities to strengthen those guidance for better pedestrian safety outcomes. That project's kicking off in the new year and is going to be pretty powerful. I know these slides are going out to you afterwards, so I've got a bunch of questions there on the right-hand side of the screen that we'd love to hear from you more about. I'll pop my email in the chat, and we'd love to hear from you. So just to remind you, Streamer Run report's coming soon. There's a QR code on the screen if you've got the time to access the website. Either way, all the information is there on the Austroads website. Great. Handing over to Chris.
Thank you, Phil. I'm going to take 5, maybe 10 minutes, not more than that, to talk to you about a implementation project. This implementation project is effectively taking the way we have institutionally run road safety audits from a state-based approach to a national-based approach. Most of you would be aware that we have the Austroads Guide to Road Safety, and Part 6 is dedicated to road safety audits. It is consistent within itself, and it's been adopted by states. The issue that we have there is variability in the way people are trained, in the way people are registered, and in their ongoing continual professional development. And that variability has been identified by Austroads members, and this project is addressing to ensure that we standardise the way people are trained, which means someone trained in Broome is getting the same training as one that would be doing the training in Cairns, that the registration is standardised so that you can operate as a practitioner across the country. And in doing so, we believe this will also improve the quality of road safety audits. Noting all this, we also recognise there are local conditions. Each state, each region within the state has local conditions which are add-ons to the training requirements. The National Harmonised Road Safety Audit Framework will be established under the auspices of Austroads and its members. It will provide governance and leadership. The framework will operate under a panel of Austroads members, including local government representation, which is critical. And I note that Adam is in attendance today, and Adam is the chair of our project control group. This panel will be accountable for the application, the review. They will make decisions concerning trainers, training organisations, and the ongoing registration of auditors. We effectively are developing 3 training environments, or in particular syllabuses, one for road safety auditors, one for senior road safety auditors, and one for non-safety auditors, or how to become an informed purchaser. Austroads has developed the detailed syllabus. We expect the industry to develop the content that will fulfill that. These content will be provided to this panel, who will approve it so that you can become an approved training provider. That means that people that will be training will have to meet the competency requirements, meaning that they have done the training course themselves. We'll have to ensure that they are current, and we'll have to demonstrate that they have training capability. They can actually control a classroom or online and so forth. And they will have to also explain how they address regional training needs as well. Once approved, they can operate, but they will be subject to both overt and covert auditing environments. The framework allows for 3 roles: trainee auditor, road safety auditor, senior road safety auditor. For those of you in New South Wales, this is equivalent to levels 1, 2, and 3, with a few nuances. The important thing is that It's not just the training that you do, but you must demonstrate the experience so that you can move from one position to another. And that experience will be assessed as well. It won't simply be on presentation of a CV. There'll be an assessment that takes place that effectively tests the bona fides. Importantly, there will be a methodology that allows a client, when not satisfied with the quality of audit report, with any recommendations, if applicable, or any treatments, to be able to take that report to the panel, and the panel will investigate the standard of that report. In other words, there will be oversight on the quality of audit reports and hence auditors. Timeline. In theory, we'll be finishing in 2026, but in practice, all good things start early. So we already have states who want to jump on board and transition in an earlier fashion. So adoption and transition will be occurring, and they will be state-based decisions into the national system. There's a link there. There's a more detailed webinar that you're more than entitled on the Austroads website to have a look at. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Austroads team. That was great. I've been mainly watching the chat, putting questions in as they came through as well. So I'm happy, Michael, if we just go Brady Bunch style across the screen, if you like, with everybody. Hello, everyone. So remember, if you haven't already popped a question in and you'd like to ask a question of our team, now's your chance, because there's a few in there. And I did want to just mention, I guess, that all of the topics that our presenters have touched on, if you've been a member of LGN this year and have dialed in, we have spoken about some of these at length, particularly the metrics for success, road safety planning, school planning, Adam and the land use planning. So very relevant to local government. All right, so let me just dial back. Michael, I might throw to you first with the question that I saw about how do local governments get involved in Austroads projects? And Brett, I saw that you were happy to say something too. Yep.
Sorry, yeah, my Zoom just crashed, but I think I'm back on board. So someone asked a question. I'm happy for someone like Michael or Amy as well to jump in, but no, about how to get involved with local government. And I'm someone who has over the last couple of years started to be involved, and I think it depends what people want to get out of it. But I was sort of sitting back, lamenting what's missing from Austroads and what we need in local government. So I thought, rather than just sort of whinge to myself, to actually try and get involved. And so I think once you start, it's probably being made known to the program managers, that can be helpful to actually then, maybe be offered to participate in certain things. And, sort of once you can put aside some time as well, the extra time you need to put in to do on top of your normal job. I think, the people in Austroads, be it the program managers or their consultants who are working on the projects, do appreciate if you can actually give the time needed to add to something and probably bring your own experience, but try and connect with other people in local government. So you're not just speaking for yourself, but you're trying to say, well, I heard Adam whinging about planning recently, so I'm going to relay his concerns about something else and whatnot. So that's just my own personal experience, but I'm happy for any others. I know Adam's involved in the harmonisation of road safety audits and other things, and I think others in this chat probably are as well. So yeah, that's just my experience.
So
Before I go to you, Adam, let's go to Michael to just get the answer from Austroads about how do you get him? How do you put your hand up if you want to be?
So we welcome local government involvement. We have local government involvement in some of our task forces, sometimes in a project group. Depending on the need, there'll be things that where it's relevant and other things where it's not as relevant. The best way to do, I'd suggest, is for you to get in touch with Robert Knight from ELGA. So he is a formal member. ELGA is a member of Austroads. ELGA is on our board, and whenever we start a project, we invite our task force members to nominate people to be participating. So that's a surefire way to make sure that you're on the list at least, make sure Robert knows who you are and that you're interested. Yeah, you can always reach out to Amy and myself. We don't hide our project managers, so Fez and Chris and Phil, bringing them in today, so you know who we are. So we're open. We are busy though, so we try to listen to a lot of voices. We can't necessarily listen to everyone all the time. So we do love local government, and we want to get you involved, which is why we've got more local government people involved than probably in recent past. So it's really valuable.
And I'm sure Rob won't care because I just whacked his email in the chat. Excellent. Adam, did you want to say anything about being involved in a Austroads project?
Yeah, thanks, Mel. I've been lucky enough to been involved probably in about 9, I'm just trying to think now, 6 projects over 9 years probably, and all road safety audit focused. But I've also thrown a couple of comments in the land use planning one, and also after zero and the schools one. I've just provided responses to, so it's all been well worthwhile. And one of the chaps recently in our section actually took it upon himself to contact, I think, Michael Hogan about the road design group too. He wanted to sort of contribute to the whole Austroads family in that regard too. So it is well worthwhile, and if you've got the time to do it, I urge anyone that's got expertise in the areas or wants to contribute to try and do so.
I mentioned we have Michael Hogan is a road design task force member, and Nigel Coates from Launceston is a member of the road safety task force. So there's a couple of contacts for you.
Can I just quickly jump in? If any, I've left my email contact in the chat. If anyone would like to participate in a very important questionnaire that we've issued concerning road safety audits, it's out there now. Adam's across it. It's going to both industry, state-based jurisdictions, but local government. Please send me their email and we'll get it out to them. It's an important questionnaire that will inform the benefit cost analysis. So there you go. Straight off the hot press.
Love it. All right. I found the first question in the chat now while all that was going on in the background. So it's for you, Amy, and it's from Adam. It's we need the Department of Planning and the Department of Education in New South Wales, not sure about the other states, to focus on road safety and get things right up front for new schools and not create avoidable crash risk that the community is left to deal with. Can Austroads help in this space?
Well, I really hope we can, and this is what we want from this project. And we've actually had a lot of engagement from New South Wales, from Transport for New South Wales, and they're doing, as you're probably aware, their own work in school safety and travel to schools. So Alice Woodruff, I mentioned, our PM, has been up and attended workshops in New South Wales on the topic. And so I'm optimistic that there are a lot of people really working to improve this issue, but I agree there's room for improvement. I also should mention, I believe the Stantec team who are doing the project also working on a number of projects for Schools New South Wales. I think it's Schools Infrastructure New South Wales. So they're quite good. They've got that practical understanding of the sort of questions you have when you're doing new schools. So hopefully it'll all be it's a good team for this problem. So yeah, pretty positive about it, I think. Yeah.
Cool. All right, next up, Hafez, I know you answered it in the chat, but we might just do it live too. So this was my question. Can you tell us a little bit about the trial of the framework with local government?
100%. So what we did, we had ALGA member Brett with us, so we decided to choose 4 local government across Australasia, 1 in New Zealand, 3 in Australia. And then what we did, we used the planning for zero framework to apply to local circumstances. So we had 2 really key questions. So this framework is developed to inform road safety strategy development at the national and state level. Is it applicable to the local government, or what part of it are? And also we have comms and engagement, training and change management, supporting material, are they applicable? So the results are, even if the framework, because it's so labor extensive and expensive, is not directly applicable to local government, but it can help maturity assessment and improvement of current road safety strategy development. Also, the comms and engagement tools material we have developed, and also training, and also change management are all applicable to the local government. For example, we have identified potentially all the existing road safety trainings in Australasia available through a state or commercial. So a local government practitioner can go and have a look at the list, identify what they need and do them. Also, we have identified what is lacking. So we're gonna hopefully Austroads will lead some of the concept development for more training. So to answer the questions, yes and no, and now we have a better understanding what yes, what no.
Awesome, thank you. Chris, one for you about auditing. So let me just find it. With regards to auditing training, do you envisage a structure that reflects the traffic volume and mixture of smaller LGAs that smaller LGAs face? Often much larger agencies deal with very different circumstances.
Do they mean the availability of training in smaller LGAs, or do they mean
Stephen, are you still on?
the different quality, the different levels of expertise of what is available in the market? Well, I'll try and answer it this way. We're envisaging a system where an IT system where a registered road safety auditor will not just be listed, where they can operate will be listed, and their areas of expertise, which range from either pre-construction, construction, post-construction, but then specific areas, vulnerable users, motorcycles, and so forth. So it'll be effectively like a menu where a prospective customer could go to and find the right senior road safety auditor that can accommodate their specific needs. That's what's envisaged. This is similar to what they have in WA, similar to what they have in New South Wales, but imagine a national version of that that's also audited.
I think that answers the question. It was about dealing with the environments or lower volumes where roads are built. So yes, it sounds like you can pick. Yes. That's all I've got in the chat. Does anyone have any questions you want to ask live?
Could I just, sorry,
yeah,
sorry, Mel,
Yep.
I'm just going to reply to Stevens and answer and probably just clarify something further to what Chris has said. I think he was sort of talking about lower traffic volumes in those environments, and that had come down to your audit findings too, with regards to the likelihood of that occurring, crashes occurring, and that'd be a lower end of the likelihood of those crashes occurring because there'd be less exposure too. So that's how your audit findings would result if you undertook audits in an area where there's lower traffic volumes. If that helps Steve and Chris and all.
Thanks, Adam. We've got a minute. So you've got time. If you've got a burning question right now, you can put your hand up. Or you can chat to our presenters offline if you're nervous too, that's fine. I'm happy to wrap it up. Thank you to Michael and the Austroads team for coming and chatting to us. As Michael said, we'll PDF those slides and get them out to you all. You'll be able to rewatch the video if you're super keen and you missed something. But yeah, thank you so much. Now, free plug for our next LGN catch up. So we are having January off, but we will be back in February. So it'll be I can't remember what it is. It's this, whatever the second Wednesday is in February. And we'll be having a wrap up of, so we'll be having some conference presentations so that you can have a bit of a wrap up if you didn't make it to Hobart, or maybe you didn't see these presentations. So that's what we'll be doing in February. So just stick it in your diary. And thank you for everything this year. And we will see you again in 2025. Have a great, safe Christmas and New Year. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.